Hello, everybody, and welcome. Bear with me a moment while I just set a couple of things up here. All righty. I always just have to jump over and make sure everything's working on Facebook and all that kind of fun stuff. And first of all, a big shout out to my dear friend Karen Ulrich. I see you watching all the way down in Stowe, Ohio. Karen is a fellow Walk 15 instructor and dear friend of mine. It's nice to see you, Karen, because I know you don't always get to tune in because you generally have classes on Thursdays. So nice to see you out there. And if you are watching live, I always encourage you to please throw a comment out there on the Facebook side there, because it's always good for me to see that the comments are working. I also love seeing your comments and any questions you might have throughout the broadcast, especially when I have a guest, because I'm sure Melissa would be very happy to answer any questions you might have as we go along. And at some point, for some reason, Facebook always kicks me out of my own broadcast and I always have to stop and go back in again. So bear with me if that happens. All righty. So why don't we get things going here? Welcome. I'm Nancy Ehle, and this is Get Rooted in Wellness, the broadcast. I'm really excited about this week's show. And as just some information about me, number one, I am your host and founder of Witness for Fitness here in Calgary. And before I dive into a little bit of a background on myself, I just want to do a shout out to all of the new members, because we had several new people join this week. And I just want to say a big welcome to you all. This group actually has a worldwide audience. I've got people locally here in Calgary. I've got people across Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Ontario, many places, many states in the United States, across the country. I also have viewers in England and as far away as Australia. Carol down in Australia is an avid fan and actually does my Walk 15 classes virtually all the way from Australia. Gotta love that. So for those of you who do not know me, again, my name is Nancy Ehle, and I'm founder of Witness for Fitness here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I am a group fitness instructor and health coach, and I've been teaching fitness since 2012. My specialty certification is something called Walk 15, which was created by fitness expert Leslie Sansone of Walk at Home fame. I'm also certified through the American Council on Exercise, and I'm a Revelation Wellness instructor, among other certifications. I started off teaching Walk 15 back in 2012, and I soon realized that I could do even more to help people if I became a health coach. Now, that combination of coaching and teaching group fitness really sums up my passion for helping people get the most out of life by getting rooted in wellness. Hence the name of the group, Get Rooted in Wellness with Nance, and the name of the broadcast, right? And in many ways, it actually sums up my own journey in health and wellness, which I won't get into tonight, but I have quite the story. And I really feel that there were some things that happened in my life right around, not long before I got certified, that really did help me get rooted in wellness in many ways, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the whole package. And that is something that I just love seeing other people accomplish as well. And I just want to give people what I received. Do you know what I mean? It's there's no greater joy for me than to see someone succeed. And man, oh man, like I say, I could tell you stories. Anyway, the live version of this broadcast is exclusive to this group, and each week I present health and wellness topics relevant, or at least that I hope are relevant to the membership. My goal overall is to nurture, educate, encourage, and motivate you in your wellness journey. Now, in tonight's episode, I have the great pleasure of introducing Melissa Merkle as my special guest to talk about 5 keys to longevity. So, welcome, Melissa. I'm just going to switch my screen here. There she is.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here. This is going to be so fun.
Oh man, I am so excited to have you here, Melissa. And what people may not realize, number one, just let me do another little plug here. The music you heard at the beginning is courtesy of Muscle Mixes Music. And that's how Melissa and I met. Because I've done I did several projects for Muscle Mixes over the last couple of years, and Melissa was working for them. And what a joy it's been to connect in this kind of a venue where we're both working with the health and wellness field. And I know you've got some amazing experience behind you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Melissa?
Absolutely. We have a lot of parallels in our stories. I first got certified as a group exercise instructor when I was going to school at Kent State University. And I bring that up because Karen down in Stowe, Ohio, Stowe is actually right next door to Kent. I grew up in the Akron area and have been to Stowe many times. So, hey,
Wow,
Karen.
that's amazing. I never knew that. Well, Karen will be, doing little backflips over at her house right now.
Well, when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know right where that is.
That's
I live in it's fantastic. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee currently, but I head back up to Ohio regularly. My family lives there. So like I said, I first got certified as a group exercise instructor when I was going to college and really got into exercise and nutrition and all of the things. And so since that time, I've worked in the industry in a lot of different ways. Eventually got certified as a personal trainer. And like you, I got certified as a health coach as well. I've worked in gyms in person. I've done online things. I worked in the bodybuilding space
Oh, is
for a
that?
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I competed in some fitness competitions, and that was
Really?
really
Oh,
interesting.
how interesting. I know somebody else who did that too. That's really interesting. Wow.
It's a whole different world, and
Oh,
we can talk about that sometime when we have more time.
yes.
But I also have worked with what I call ageless adults as well. And that is really where my heart is. And the most recent training that I went through was on longevity. And I love this topic so much. I love helping people live better, longer. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm so excited to do so.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so, like I say, I'm just thrilled to have you here. When I saw you starting to post more about longevity, I just thought this is perfect. This is just perfect for this group, and I'm so glad that you were number one available and number two willing to come on with me. So thank you. Now, before we jump to the keys. Oh, and actually, I just got to jump to the comments here. Karen says she is so close to KSU.
Yeah,
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 that is so cool.
absolutely.
And she loves that word ageless.
Mm,
That, and I like that too. That's a really good way of looking at it. And before we jump to the 5 keys, last week you posted something that caught my attention, and I know I mentioned it to you. And I want to just touch on that because I loved the way you laid it out. And it's the difference between lifespan and health span. Why don't you touch on that for us and explain the difference?
absolutely, I would love to. So, when we're talking about longevity, it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. Lifespan is really how long we live, the number of years that we live, whereas health span is the number of years that we live healthy.
Yeah.
So, really what we all want is to extend our health span much more so than our lifespan. And Nancy, I want to share with you, there was a study done, and a lot of studies actually, and they are suggesting by the end of this century, we will start living to around 120 to 150 years old. And
I
that's going
heard
to
that.
be, yes, it's going to become the new norm. But here's the thing, nobody wants to live that long if our last 5, 10, 20, however many years,
Yeah.
we're going to be sick and unwell.
Yeah.
So our health span, again, is being healthy through all of those years. And that's what we want to focus on here. And we used to think that our genes determined so much of how long we lived, but also if we were to develop any diseases or health conditions. But what they're finding now, they're saying that our genetics only plays about 10% in contributing to whether or not we develop diseases. They're showing now that 75 to 90% of how well we age is determined by our lifestyle, which I think is fantastic because we have a lot of control
Yeah.
over our
It's
lifestyle.
really good that they're recognizing that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just want to jump in and because a little bit of history on my family, talking about ageless and longevity and genetics. My great grandmother on my dad's side lived to be 109 years old.
Wow.
My
That's
grandmother,
awesome.
my grandmother, 103. Now, the
Wow.
difference there, I was just telling somebody about this today. The difference there was my grandmother at 103, she was frail, and she was losing her memory, but she was still living in assisted living. So in
Hmm.
essence, she had still had her own little apartment and everything. And she still knew who people were for the most part. And I can remember when she came back from a visit, this was many years ago, she came back from a visit with great grandma LaBeouf. And I remember her telling me, I just wish she would go because her quality of
Mm,
life was not there. She didn't know a
yeah,
soul and she was just a bag of bones, you know, so
yep,
frail. And where's the quality of life, right? And there's no guarantee
absolutely.
because my grandmother and my great grandmother on my dad's side lived to be these ripe old age, as they would say. um you look on my mother's side, my grandmother passed away at 68, which is very young in my
Mm,
opinion, and my
absolutely.
grandpa, I think, was in his 70s when he passed away. So there is no guarantee genetically that I'm going to live to 103 like my grandmother did. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
lifestyle really can come into play, right? So I'm really glad you
Absolutely.
brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, our lifestyle makes a big difference. And really, as we get into these 5 keys, there are different lifestyle factors that influence our genes. I like to think of our genes, they have like a light switch on them. So you might have a predisposition for a certain disease or condition, but that light switch has to be turned on for it to present. And the different things we put into our body, the different stimulus, will either turn on or off
Right.
that switch. And these 5 keys are some of those things that turn the switch on or off.
Right. Right. Well, why don't we jump into those?
Perfect. Let's
I
go.
know, I know that number one is my favorite on the list.
Yes, I thought it would be. I thought it would be. So, key number one, yes, is walking. And not just any walking, but brisk walking really seems to make a difference.
Mhm.
There was a study done, and they found that the participants that self reported brisk walking, they on average lived 15 to 20 years longer than those that didn't. And brisk walking was a better determinant of how long and how well you would live, more so than your body fat, your
Yeah.
BMI, your
Mhm.
waist to hip ratio. Fast or brisk
Yeah.
walking was the number one thing that they found in that study that contributed to longevity, which is pretty, pretty amazing.
Well, it's one of those things I think where as we age, you've got to keep moving. And you know that saying, you use it or lose it, right? Move it or lose it. Because
Yes,
my
yes,
I know one of the things my mom has often told me is that she has noticed as she got older, how many of the women who were her age or maybe a bit older couldn't do this anymore.
yeah,
And it's because they stopped doing it. And my mom is
yeah,
still active. She's still gardening. She gets out and does her walks when she can and that kind of thing. And man, it's so true. We've got to keep moving, and walking is, as Leslie Sansone always says, it's the safest, most natural form of exercise. So
absolutely.
yeah.
It's one of the best things that we can do for sure. And as I was digging more into walking, as I mentioned, that one study, brisk walking was considered, it was subjective. The participants, if they considered what they were doing as brisk walking, then it was counted. But there was some other information out there and some other research about what fast walking is. And one of the studies suggests that 100 steps per minute
Mm,
is brisk walking for most people,
right.
which equates to about 3 miles an hour. But
Right.
Nancy, I wanted to ask you, typically your music, the beats per minute of your music, if you're stepping to the beat of the music,
Yes.
equates to how many steps you're getting. So for your walking classes, what is the beats per minute that you typically use for your classes?
Well, it varies because, of course,
Okay.
we have a warm-up pace that's about
Hmm.
130 beats per minute, and
Okay.
it'll depend on the class, but
Yep.
our average speed, because the way Leslie did this is she engineered the music so that our beats per minute, we convert it to miles per hour.
Nice.
So our average speed in like say a 3 mile or a 2 mile class is 4 miles per hour. So that is very
Awesome.
now we're not doing that the whole time, of course, it's on average. We're starting at maybe 3, then we take it up because you want that safe transition for your heart, right? So we go from resting level, we take us gently up to active, we hold that brisk pace that might be over 5 miles per hour. Again, depending on the class. And then we gradually bring us back down again, and we end up where we were again in the beginning, at the end, same as the end, at the end, and we're at around 3 miles per hour again, right? So it's pretty
That
cool.
it that's fantastic. And your class is helping all of your students to live longer, healthier. What you're doing is so impactful and making such a huge difference.
And
And to your point, walking is accessible for most of us.
yes.
And it's one of the absolute best things you can do.
And
So, key
Karen
number one is
is
walking.
Karen is just chiming in here because, of course, she's a Walk 15 instructor as well. And she's like, wow, brisk walking, that's so great to hear.
Yes, yes. And there's so much information and, as I mentioned, research out there to support that. It's incredible because, as you know, and Karen does as well, walking has so many additional benefits, from strengthening your muscles, strengthening your heart, increasing the blood flow is so important for your brain health as well. It helps with balance. It helps with so many things.
That's right. And when you do something like, I love a good walk in the park, but when you do something, and I would mix your walks in the park with something like the Walk 15 classes that I teach, because when you do a Walk 15 classes, you're using every major muscle group in your body. And we add strength training, we add a resistance training component. So you can really get a full body workout, but you're doing a walking based workout that anyone can still do, right? But yeah, if you're getting out and you're walking, if you're specifically walking outdoors for exercise, you definitely need to get that pace up to a brisk walk so that your heart rate is elevated, right? And that's where you're going to get all your benefits.
Yes. And, if 100 steps per minute or 3 miles an hour or 3 miles in general seems like way far out of your reach, just start doing what you can at
That's
the
right.
pace you can, because every little bit you do is going to be beneficial. You don't
That's
have
right.
to hit all of these big numbers or all of these milestones.
Yeah.
Just take steps
Yeah.
towards
I often say
building.
you don't have to run a marathon unless you want to. Right?
That's
And
right.
I know people who have started out and all they could do was walk to the end of the block and back. And that's literally all they could do. But the next day they did it again and they did it again. And the next thing you know, they're walking 2 blocks, they're walking 4 blocks, they're up to a mile, right? So you have to do it incrementally sometimes when you're first starting out. And that's absolutely fine. Everybody's different and you have to do
Mhm.
what works best for your body.
Yes. When I was trying to run more and better, because I am not a runner, I used to use mailboxes
Oh, yes.
as marker
Yeah.
points. And like what you were saying, if walking to the mailbox is enough of a walk for you right now, awesome. Walk to your mailbox.
Yeah.
And then the next day or the next week, when you feel ready, walk to your neighbor's mailbox. Mailbox are great markers. I
Yep.
think they're fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to jump back to the comments here. I've got Suzanne
Yeah.
Galler says walking is accessible and beneficial. And Karen says, and it makes us happy. And she is so right about that. And I
Yes,
could
she
tell
is.
you a story, but I'm not going to get into my story tonight because I'll be here all night. Um, and we could talk about walking all night, but let's jump on to the
Yes.
next key. And what
Yes.
would
Key
that
number
be?
2. Oh, yes. Which I feel like we could also be on key number 2 and most of them for the rest of the night and for hours and hours and days. But key number 2 is nutrition. And again, there's so much that we can dive into when it comes to nutrition, but I want to talk about 2 main points. The first being timing, and the second being type. So when we talk about timing, if you do any kind of Google search on longevity and nutrition, you're going to come up with all sorts of results on intermittent fasting.
Oh, yes.
And so with intermittent fasting, you eat for a period of time and you don't eat, or you fast for a period of time. And did you know there's over 100 different ways to do intermittent fasting?
Oh, that's
There's
interesting. That is
there's
interesting.
Yes, there's so many different ways to do it. But one of the ways that seems to be doable for most people is a 12-hour fast.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
with a 12-hour fast, for example, let's say you eat dinner at 6 p.m. in the evening and you make that the last thing you eat for the day. You go to sleep and you have breakfast at 6 a.m. or later the next morning. So most of the time you're fasting, you're actually sleeping.
Yes,
And then you have breakfast or break fast,
yes,
breaking the fast
that's right.
when you wake up. And that the 12-hour fast has been shown to be beneficial when it comes to longevity. And like I mentioned, seems doable for most people. Some of the longer fasts that go on for days or an extended time frame can be more challenging for some people,
That's right.
but the
Yeah.
12-hour fast seems to be a
Well,
good range.
there have been proven benefits, so many proven benefits of fasting. And you getting into burning ketones, burning fat for fuel. If you're fast in a fasted state, true fasted state, your body is switching over to its actual preferred fuel source, which is not carbohydrates, it's fat.
Mhm.
And this is a topic I've done a lot of research on in the last couple of years, and it's, again, like you say, we could talk about this all night long because it is really fascinating when you start getting into some of the research that's out there. And a lot of people go, well, fasting isn't healthy, is it? Well, actually, it can be very, very healthy. Um, and I guess the one caution I would say is for anybody who is a diabetic, you absolutely must be working with a healthcare professional before you try fasting, because there are issues that we can't cover here because we're not medical professionals, and you do have to be very, very careful. But um, done well, and if you're eating the right types of food in your eating windows, you're actually not going to be all that hungry during your fasting window. Whether you do the overnight is really good because, like you say, Melissa, you have that 12 hours where you're not eating anyway, you're sleeping for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, is there anything else you can touch on that topic for us?
Yes, well, you bring up such a good point too about what you eat during the window of eating.
Yes.
And that goes to the second point of type and what
Yes. Yes.
types of food that we want. And Nancy, I would love to hear what you've learned and all about what you see most beneficial. Typically, one of the absolute best things you can do is to eat whole, real, non-processed foods.
Yes.
If there's only one thing you do, if you get rid of your processed food, you are going to be way, way better off.
That's right. That's right.
That
And
is, yeah, go ahead.
whole foods, 100%, and vegetables, vegetables, vegetables.
Yes.
And of course, watching the glycemic index, but your leafy greens are critical. You get so much nutrition from them, and fiber, because of course fiber is going to feed your gut microbiome,
Yes.
right? And I'm sure you've come across all sorts of research on, like you say, it's the type of food you're putting in, the quality needs to be there, right?
It really does. And I'm so glad that you bring up the point of fiber because people, especially right now, are very, I don't want to use the word confused, but there's a lot of differing views on whether you should eat carbs or
Yes,
not.
that's right.
And I know growing up too, fat was the enemy and we shouldn't eat fat. So is it okay now to eat those things?
Right.
And fiber is a carbohydrate, and fiber is super important as we age.
Yes.
So a balanced diet of protein and getting enough protein and healthy fats. Healthy fats are incredible for your health, especially your brain health,
Yes.
and
Right.
the
Absolutely.
healthy carbohydrates that are high in fiber.
Yes.
So
That's the key right there. We're talking about 5 keys. Well, there's a key right
yes.
there.
Yeah, yeah, we've got more than
Healthy,
five, I'm sure.
healthy carbohydrates, right? And that's again your fruits and vegetables, but especially your veg. And like you say, protein is important as well. It's interesting, like when it comes to longevity, protein is they're saying more and more now that as we age, we actually need more protein because you get into something called age-related sarcopenia, where you naturally lose muscle mass a certain percentage each year as we age. So you actually need more amino acids, which come from your proteins, to help keep your muscle, strong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. That is such a good point and so, so very important. All of those things are important. And also, as we had mentioned in somewhere along this conversation, having that balanced diet really helps to keep our blood sugar in
yes,
check as
yes,
well,
that's right.
because we want to try as much as we can to avoid the spikes in blood
Yes,
sugar.
that's right.
In
That's
fact, Alzheimer's is considered type 3 diabetes
Oh,
for many
that's
people.
interesting.
It is, and our blood sugar and those insulin levels, they really make a difference. But eating a balanced diet of all of those things, starting with your vegetables and having a mixture, again, the fiber, the
Mhm,
fat, the
mhm.
protein, it all helps to balance out your blood sugar. And it's really important.
A lot of our health problems today stem from insulin resistance. Insulin
Yes.
resistance typically happens because of that up and down cycle. We keep spiking it. How are we spiking it? A lot of times it's because of what we're eating, when we're eating it. And if you're eating simple carbs, simple sugars, whoop, and then whoop, when you eat your fibers, like your better nutrient dense food is what I always recommend. You eat your
Yes.
nutrient density, you get that into your system, and you're going to get you're going to get an insulin spike. Anytime we eat, you get an insulin spike. It's a matter of how big is it and how quickly does it happen. Does it go like this and then you're going to crash, or does it go up gradually and then come down gradually? And that's what we need. We need to get into that nice wave as opposed to those extremes, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Every time your blood sugar spikes up fast, that insulin is released and it wants to get the blood sugar down. And so, yep, you have the ups and downs, but really to keep it steady is the key. All the keys that we're talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
keys. There are so many keys.
Yes,
I
there
should.
are.
I need a little notepad to make. Okay, how many keys did we actually get to?
I know. We'll have to go back and watch the recording and count them. Yes.
All right,
Yes.
let's move on. What is key number 3?
Key number 3 is our mindset.
Ooh,
And
good one.
this is one we don't always think about our thoughts all that much and how they impact our health and our chemistry.
Yes.
There was a study done. It's called the milkshake study.
Oh,
And Nancy, I think you'll find this fascinating. The participants of this study, they were split into 2 groups. They all received milkshakes. One group, they got a milkshake that was labeled as indulgent, and it had over 600 calories in it. The other group got a milkshake, and they were labeled as sensible with a sensible 140 calories. All right.
right.
The thing was, they all received the same milkshake. They were all 300, I believe 340 or 380 calories.
Okay.
The only difference was what they thought they were
We're getting.
consuming.
That's interesting.
It is. And they were looking at the ghrelin levels in the participants. So ghrelin is the hormone that signals hunger.
Okay. Yep.
So if you get that rumbling in your tummy when you get hungry, I like to think of that as like, that's my ghrelin talking, that
Nice,
signaling
you're
that
not
I'm.
hearing a little grumbling now because I didn't get a chance to have supper before we did this.
So you hear the ghrelin. Yes.
You might hear some rumbling.
Yes.
That's
And
interesting.
what they found is that the 2 groups had a significant difference in their ghrelin levels.
Okay.
Those that drank the indulgent milkshake, they expected that they were drinking this treat with all of these calories and that they would be stuffed and full from it.
Okay.
And that is what happened based on their ghrelin level, where those that had the sensible one, and it was only 140 calories, their hunger level did not change as much. They did not get as full.
Oh, wow.
So again, the only thing that was different was their thoughts about it. It's kind of like the placebo effect,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a pill, is it the pill that made you better, or was it because you thought the pill was going to make you better?
And there's
But
that mind body connection again, right?
yes, yes, it makes a huge difference. There was another study that was done, and it found that people that had a positive outlook on life and those that were future focused and looked forward to what was to come, they actually lived 7.5 years longer, with
Wow.
the mindset and the attitude being the only variable that changed. So it's pretty significant
Yes.
keeping that mindset.
Yeah. And I mean, mindset, when you think about it, it affects every area of your life.
Does.
And quality of life can come down to mindset.
It really can. It really can. And it's helpful to keep a positive mindset when you surround yourself with like-minded people or people that are positive.
Yeah.
And that actually leads us right into key number 4, which is having those positive, healthy, loving relationships with other people. And I think that coming out of the pandemic, we really noticed at a deeper level how important those social connections are.
Yes, yes. And before we touch on that, I just want to jump back to the comments.
Yes.
Marvel, who's watching from Pierceland, Saskatchewan, which is my hometown, and she
Ooh.
happens to be my mom's neighbor on the farm. She said,
Oh, hello.
wow, that's awesome. And again, I think this is right when we were getting into the mindset. And Karen says, I love this mindset information, Melissa. So thank you. Awesome. But yes, I totally agree with you on um, how the pandemic, one of the things that it actually brought forth was just how important those interpersonal connections are, and how I've talked to so many different people over the last 3 years who've said they could not get over the difference between doing what you and I are doing right now because they maintain contact through Zoom, as an
Mhm.
example, or
Yeah.
TikTok, or their FaceTiming or whatever they're doing. And it's not the same as being one on one, in person, in the flesh, because there's an energy exchange that happens when you're physically with somebody that does not happen when we're in this kind of a scenario.
Yes. And this is wonderful for so many reasons.
Yes, I
But
agree.
yes, that in-person connection just takes it to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And they're saying now too that loneliness and depression from a health perspective is the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And that is insane. That is so huge and
Wow.
really shows the importance of having the healthy relationships. Because when we do, again, going back to the hormones and what that chemistry looks like in our body, we release essentially a chemical cocktail of dopamine
Yeah.
and serotonin and oxytocin,
Mhm.
all of the feel good hormones
Yes.
that are really protective of our health. It's
Yes.
really important.
And also consider during the pandemic, isolation, lockdowns, hugs. I
Yes.
don't I remember this one day I was working part-time during the pandemic. I was laid off from I worked part-time at a print shop, and they had to lay me off because of the lockdown, and I got on at Walmart. And it's a job, it's putting food on my table, so away I went doing my thing. I'm out in the parking lot about to dispense an online order, and I look up and here comes my friend Katie. I didn't care that we were on camera. I was like this and she was like this, and we ran to each other, and it was one of those big monster hug moments, and we didn't want to let go because we had not seen each other in way too long. And that physical human contact, meaningful physical human contact, is crucial for mental health, I think.
It is. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about that, it reminds me too, after the pandemic, or kind of still in it, when we were allowed to not have masks
Yes.
on
Yeah.
everywhere we went, seeing people's faces
Yes.
again and
Yes.
being able to just smile at people,
That's
it
right.
was the most wonderful thing. It's
Yes.
something we took for granted. And I feel like I know I take it for granted now too, because I'm used to seeing everyone's face.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
when we didn't have that, that was huge as well.
Yeah. It was a big, it was a real change. Like, it was a really kind of a weird time frame when it first happened, and you're starting to see more like everybody masked up, and it's like this is really weird. And then you get used to it, and it becomes the new normal kind of thing, right? And then we
Yeah.
switch back the other way. There was a time when if I was riding the bus, I take transit a lot, and if I was riding the bus and if I saw someone with a mask on like 20 years ago, I my first thought was, oh, he must have cancer, right? And
Mhm.
probably his immunity is down. And that would be the one person out of maybe 200 that I saw wearing a mask. And
Mhm.
now I see somebody, I'll go on the bus and I see one person with a mask on, and it doesn't even faze me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep, for sure.
yeah, but it was yeah, that was kind of just a really wild time on the earth.
It was. It
But
was so, yes, it was.
yeah. But again, the interpersonal connections are so important, and having, I think another piece of it too is, and I have experienced this in my own life as I've gotten older, I've started to identify the toxic personalities in my life
Mm,
and purposefully distance myself. Not necessarily going and telling the person I don't want to see you no more because you said this, nothing like that. Just I just choose who I'm going to surround myself with, and I choose them a lot more carefully than I used to. And because I need to protect me, because I'm important. You're important, Melissa. You need to protect you.
yes.
And I don't have any interest anymore in being around toxicity. I just don't want it. I don't want it. I have no desire whatsoever to have that in my life. And you know what? I feel a whole heck of a lot better for it.
Yes, for sure. It actually reminds me, I am in Toastmasters, and I'm not
Yes,
sure if you have
we do.
Toastmasters in
Yeah,
Canada.
we
It's an international thing on speaking. But last week at the meeting, there was an impromptu speech, and the topic was Debbie Downers.
do. Okay.
And so that was the topic, and I was chosen to speak on it.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I didn't have any time to prepare. It was just kind of, whatever came out at the time. But I talked about how at this point in my life, like you were saying, I don't have many Debbie Downers. Most of the people in my life, whether they're colleagues or clients or family, and of course we can't always control our family and all of the things,
That's right.
but
That's right.
choosing to spend your time with positive, uplifting people is so important. And like you said, choosing who you want to spend your time with, it makes such a big difference.
It really
It
does.
does.
And I I only have so much energy. My energy, especially these days, is finite. It's
Hmm.
not as, almost infinite as it used to be. And I want to be in relationships where it is a two-way street, where if you and I are together, we're bouncing off of each other and we both walk away from that encounter energized and feeling fabulous, whereas as opposed to a situation where it's a one-sided situation where you're just continually drained, your energy is constantly being pulled out of you. I can't do that anymore. I don't have that energy level to give. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think it's important as individuals that we start to recognize that and realize that it's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to, look after you, because if I'm not looking after me, I can't help the people I'm trying to help.
Yep. Healthy boundaries are really,
Absolutely.
really important.
That is very important. Yeah, and that could be
Yep.
yet another key. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. There's
Again,
another one. Add that to the
as
list.
it's another situation, as I've, even in my business, I have had to learn to set boundaries. And that's really important too. As a fitness instructor, it's important for us to have boundaries in place. And um but boundaries in general, boundaries with your kids are important. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep. And they can be hard
yeah,
when
that's right.
so many of us, and I'm guilty of this too, are people pleasers.
Oh,
And we want to make everyone happy.
right.
And sometimes it can be hard to put ourselves first.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's a muscle, just like anything else, practicing
that's right.
establishing those
Practice. Yeah.
boundaries in all of the different areas.
Yep. And and it can be challenging to enforce those boundaries depending on the
Hmm.
situation. But anytime I don't like having to enforce the boundary over and over and over again, right? It gets a little, but but for your own self-respect, sometimes it is important to take a stand and say, no, this is the boundary I've set and I'm not budging.
Hmm.
And of course, every situation is going to be different. And there are times when you probably will want to give a little, right? But and that just takes wisdom as you go through life, and finding
Hmm.
your balance and finding what works best with different people, different personalities, different situations. It could be an employment situation. Your boundaries on a job are going to be quite different than the boundaries in a home with your family, right?
They are. Yes.
Yeah,
There's, you
but
bring up a lot of good points, and the different relationships and dynamics of those relationships definitely have an impact on what those boundaries look like.
yes. So was that number three or was that number four?
So that was number four. So
Oh,
we've had brisk walking was number one.
yeah,
We had nutrition was number two.
right.
Number three was mindset. Number four was our close relationships. So we are down to number five. And number five is fall prevention.
Oh, good one. Yes.
One, yes, 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls every year. And falls are the leading cause of both fatal and non-fatal injuries. It causes so many issues for so many people. And there's a number of reasons for falls, but one of the biggest contributing factor is our balance.
Right.
And when we're talking about balance, like we said, walking is a great thing to help with balance, but
Yes.
there are a number of other factors that factor in to how steady we are on our feet. So how strong we are. You had mentioned sarcopenia and how we start to lose muscle mass. So maintaining that as much as possible, our strength is very important. Also, our inner ear health.
Yes,
Did you
absolutely.
know that if you have a wax buildup in your ear, it can actually impact your balance?
Hmm.
I had a client at one point, and he was typically very steady. He practiced his balance exercises in his hallway every day, and he was having issues. And he went to his doctor, he got his ears cleaned out, and he was steady as can be again.
Wow.
So that can make a big difference.
Yes.
Also, our vision
Yes.
plays a role.
It absolutely does. Yes.
It does. And if you do any balance exercise, which we are going to do here in just a minute, if you try the same thing, closing your
Uh-huh.
eyes, make sure you have something close by to grab onto, because when you remove the element of vision, it's a total game changer. So our vision plays a role. Medications that we're taking, there are a lot of different factors
Yeah.
that contribute to our balance. But one of the things that you can do is take a wonderful class like Nancy's, work on your strength, keep your muscles strong, and practice balance exercises too.
Yes.
And I know we're going to jump in to one. Nancy, you think we still have time? Are we good to do
Yeah, I
one?
think we can. Before we do, I need to show
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Coming. Just a minute.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Another really good thing for balance, if you do struggle with balance, walking poles.
Oh, excellent.
These are called jetty poles. I just got them. I'm actually taking another certification in these. But walking poles are another really good way. If you do struggle with balance, it's a good idea if you're out hiking or walking in the park with your friends. It can really save you from a fall. I have one of my avid walkers who's been with me right since the beginning. She has struggled with balance off and on, and she has walking poles, and she's told me more than once that those poles saved her from a fall.
I
And
believe it.
you're using them, you're burning more calories too.
Yes. So with those, are you going to be teaching classes with the
Um,
poles then?
I
Or are
do
those for outdoor use only? Tell
these
me a little
are
bit more.
either way, I can teach classes with these. I can incorporate them into class in different ways. And I can also, you can, of course, walk with them outdoors. I am probably going to be I don't know if you saw much of my posts over the summer, but I hike out in the mountains all summer. And I
Yes,
will probably lead some groups out in the mountains next year. So,
that is amazing.
yeah, we have that lovely $10 bus that goes from Calgary to Banff. It's seasonal, but $10 one way. You can't get out there for with gasoline for that.
Yes.
So that's that's one of the things I've got coming up. And now you are going to lead us through a balance exercise, right?
Yes.
What I'm going to do here, Melissa, is I'm going to switch to speaker view so that people are focused on you. I'm going to shut my camera off, and
Okay.
I want you to take it from here and lead us in a balance exercise. Ah.
All right. So for this balance exercise, it's going to be so fun. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to work on our balance, but we're also going to work on our brain health. I'm going to make you think a little bit about this. All right. So if you're not already doing so, go ahead and stand up here. All right. So here's how it's going to work. Your right hand is red. Your left hand is blue. All right. Right is red, left is blue. Your right leg is green. Your left leg is yellow. All right. So we've got red, blue, green, yellow. So here's how this is going to work. So I want you to imagine that you have a wall in front of you. And I'm going to call out a color. And when I call out the color, you're going to reach out that limb to touch the wall. So again, it's either going to be a foot to reach out or a hand to reach out. All right. And I want you to hold it there until I call the next color. All right. So let's start with red. Good. Blue. Green. Yellow. Green. Blue. Good. Keep going. Red. Yellow. Red. Green. Yellow. Green. Blue. Yellow. Red. Blue. Just a couple more. Yellow. Green. Maybe hold that one longer. Blue. Green. Yellow. And go ahead. Put both feet down. Put your hands together. Nice job. Nice job. Like I said, practicing the balance, but also working the brain when you do them together, it gives your brain an added boost. There is a region in our brain called the cerebellum, and that is the main part of the brain that is responsible for our balance and our movement. So it's very important that we keep that strong in order to keep our balance strong as well. So we worked a little bit of everything with that one. Thanks for letting me share that. It's fun.
That is fantastic, and I love that you brought in the brain connection to balance, because when we exercise and we do different things like you were just doing, we're not just working on balance, we're also working on coordination.
Yes.
And I am going to use that exercise in my class tomorrow morning,
Do it. Yeah, that's a
because
fun one.
I teach mostly older adults, as you say, ageless adults. I love that.
Ageless. Yes.
And this particular group is always up for something new. And every single class, this is a move and groove class format of my own design. And we always start with balance exercises, and that is perfect. There's
It's a
going to
fun
be,
one.
I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of giggling throughout the room.
Yes. I was just gonna say this one, just people have fun with it. And that's how it should be, right? Like we don't want to do boring anything. We want it to be enjoyable for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Excellent. So, just before we wrap up, Melissa, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, would you be open to giving your contact information or letting us know what your Facebook group is or your website? Please go ahead.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this. You can find me here on Facebook. I'm Melissa Merkle. If you're looking at the URL, I'm actually melissa.merkle.3. I guess I'm the third one. But I can put that in the comments
Okay.
here in the
Yeah,
Facebook
please.
group for those of you that are watching on Facebook, or anyone can email me. My email address is melissa@melissamerkle.com. And again, I can share that with you as well with spelling and everything like that. Those would be the two best ways to get in touch with me. And I'd love to hear from all of you. I so enjoy connecting with new people, instructors, and people that are working on improving their health. I feel like when we are connected and we have more, again, that positive support from more people, it just makes it easier for all of us to continue making those healthy choices every day. And the more positive people I can have in my life, the better. So I'd love to hear from all of you.
Awesome. And we're obviously doing this live. If you happen to be watching the replay and you have any comments or questions, I want to just encourage you folks to just drop your comments on the in the Facebook feed because we will see them. Melissa is a member of the group, and one or the other of us will see that question and we will answer it for you. And if I see it and I know it's a question for Melissa, I'll reach out to Melissa to make sure she sees it. And so don't think that just because you missed the live that you can't ask a question, because absolutely you can. Okay, I'm just going to jump
Yeah.
to the feed again because I saw Marvel. The walking poles. She says, really, they help burn calories? Oh yes.
Is
You
there a weight to them? Are they
these
heavy?
ones are not super heavy. They might be 2 pounds, but they
Okay.
they are designed. The weight I think is evenly distributed, and like I say, they might be around 2 pounds. They're not as heavy as I thought they would be, and they're very
Good.
comfortable. These are very comfortable. So like
Good.
they'll custom size them for you too. Because they
Oh,
asked me, because
interesting.
I'm small for my age. I'm 4 feet 11. So we were trying to figure out if they needed to customize for me because they're for
Okay.
five. These the petite are 5 to 5'3" or whatever it is, and I said,
Yeah.
well, I'm probably 5 feet with my sneakers on. So
Got
and
it.
we had a really good laugh about it, but we didn't have to
Good.
customize. I got the petites and they were just fine. Um,
Got it.
They are only available in the United States. So anybody that's watching from
Mm,
Canada, I had 2 pairs. I've already sold one because somebody saw them and pounced on it and said, "Can I buy them from you?" Because I bought two for me. And I thought,
mhm.
well, I don't really need the two, but I wanted two colors. So yeah. Anyway, yes,
Yeah.
any kind of walking pole can help you because you're using your arms in a different
Mhm.
way. So anytime you engage more muscle rather than just doing this, you're lifting that. Even though it's a light load, it's still a load and you're using your muscles differently, so you're going to get a slightly better calorie burn. And oh, Marvel said she'd love to be able to come down here for that bus trip. Well, Marvel, let's talk because we'll plan it next year. And I would love to have,
Yeah, get it on the calendar.
yeah, yeah. So, Karen says, excellent information. Thank you both, Melissa and Nancy. 1.1 pounds each is what Karen says. Karen is the one who got
Okay.
into the jetty poles. So she
Oh, cool.
1.1 pounds each. I knew they were a lot lighter than I thought. And she said you can buy additional weights to add on.
Oh, huh.
Very cool. Melissa, you should look them up. Jetty poles,
Jetty pulls.
JETTI. They have a certification coming up on November 2nd that's virtual. And
Cool.
if you think you're going to take it, let them know you heard about it through me.
Yeah.
And they'll get you all set up. But yeah, check out their website because it's really, really interesting. So I always like new tools, new toys.
I do too. In fact, I got a new one recently too, not jetty poles, but it's a it's called Posture Fit, and I have it over here,
Yes.
and I'm like, oh, should I
Yeah.
grab it? Do you want to see it?
Yes, please. Please.
Okay.
I remember you posting about that. And I thought, ooh,
Yeah, so this is called a posture fit bar, and it's all about improving your posture, which is also really important for balance to
mhm,
maintain that posture. And it's got this cushion on it. And the main essence is you bring it behind your head, you've got a nice cushion here, but even just holding on to the sticks on the side gives me a nice stretch across the front. And then you can do a number of different movements. You can do lunges, you can do all kinds of different stuff with the posture fit bar. So this is my newest thing too. And they also have a certification. And it's, yeah, there's a lot of really cool things out there.
you
So,
know what I really like about that? The first thing I noticed when you put it behind shoulder position.
oh
If
my
your
gosh,
shoulders go
absolutely.
down
Right away.
and back, they're in perfect anatomical position. And
Yes.
that's what I teach people all the time is keep those shoulders down and back. We want to
Yes.
prevent or correct forward shoulders, rounded
Yes.
shoulders. That posture fit, perfect tool for it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Right away. As soon as you put it on, it's like, oh, yep. So there's all kinds of fun gadgets. We
Yes.
could have I'm sure, a show on different gadgets that
Gadget
we have.
show. Inspector Gadget. Yeah, I'll show you one of my other favorite ones.
Okay,
Find it. Hang on. Give me a moment because I've been moving stuff around.
sure. It's yes, the follow up to
And
this gadget.
this is something that it's my favorite tool for Walk 15. We use many
Okay.
different tools. We use hand weights, we use resistance bands, and the fit cuff.
Oh,
Have you ever seen these?
I've seen them, but I haven't trained with one before. So what are some of
So
the moves that you use it for the
this
most?
this is resistance training for the lower body. So you put
Okay.
these cuffs around your ankles and you do stationary exercises, and it can be abduction of the hip,
Mm-hmm.
adduction coming across the midline. You can straighten your leg behind you and do hamstring curls. You can do straight leg raises behind you that work your gluteus
Mm-hmm.
maximus, right? Quadriceps in the front by doing knee extensions. My favorite just because of what this thing does for the lower body. When I first got into the Walk at Home program, um, I couldn't get enough of this thing. And of course, you want to take time off in between your resistance training workouts. You don't want to be doing them every day. But I went home for Easter that year, and my mom couldn't get over how toned my legs were. And that's because of this thing.
That's awesome.
2 to 3 times a week, and I'm telling you, you will see a big difference in the strength and how toned your muscles are. Yeah, so it's fabulous.
That is amazing. And Nancy, as you were talking about your height, I had to laugh to myself because if we were next to each other, I'm actually pretty tall. I'm 5'10". And so if we were next to each other,
You're almost a foot
we'd
taller
be
than me. In fact, you probably are because my youngest sister came to visit a couple of years ago. She kept saying, "You shrunk. You were never this short. You shrunk." And she said that like at
oh,
least 5 times all weekend. You shrunk. I probably did.
how fun.
Dan, I just want to thank you so much. This was a great show, and I love that you were able to come on and everything you shared. I'm sure people are going to benefit from that. So thank you again.
Of course.
And
Thank you. Thank
if
you.
you think of down the road, if you have a topic you'd like to come on again and discuss, reach out to me because I think this was great, and I would love to have you on again at some point because I know you're into a lot of different things as well, and I'm always open to different ideas for show topics, and I love sharing information. I gobble stuff up, but I don't hold it in. I like to share it. And I kind of get the feeling that you're a little bit like that too, that you just love educating people as well. So,
The education piece is my favorite, and I'm actually working on a presentation for a group here in Knoxville on healthy holiday habits.
oh,
And so maybe we can talk about doing something around the holidays as well. But
that's
I
a
would love
great idea.
to come back. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So, I'm going to let you go, Melissa, and I'm just going to quickly wrap up the show. And again, thank you very, very much. And we will be in touch very soon.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nancy.
All right.
Thanks everyone for watching as well.
Wonderful. Okay, everybody. Oh, that was so good. We could have kept going and going and going, but I gotta let you guys get on with your evening. I know some of you are in the East and it's quite late for you. So thank you very, very much for everybody that's tuned in live. And again, if you happen to be catching the replay, please do throw comments and questions in the Facebook feed because I will see them. Melissa will see them, and we will I love seeing and hearing comments, again, questions. We will answer them if we can. And again, thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to let you go. And I don't have a topic for the next show yet. I've been looking at several different ideas, and I will probably take a break again next week. I do have so much going on in my life right now that I have to kind of be careful with my time. So next week I will probably take a break, but I will post as soon as I have a topic for the next show, and I'll give you confirm the date as well. We will be going back to our regular time of 7 p.m. Mountain going forward. And so I will see you on the next show. Until then, oh, Karen, thank you. I'm so glad you were able to tune in. And I know you're 2 hours ahead of me, so it's 9:36 your time. So I don't know, do you go to bed late? Is it your bedtime? It's way past mine by 9:30. All right, everyone, have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.